What's up, guys? Hey, this is Touchline, seventh episode. For Torn by Sports. We go ahead and we break down, MLS, soccer, do it all, man. Um, this one's kind of a RSL year in review type thing, MLS year in review. Um, First thing we gotta do is, talk about. First off, sorry, it's kind of late recording this. I usually record it about 2 hours sooner, but because of RSL being on a tape delay, I wanted to watch the game and, kind of factor that into my year in review. To start with, RSL started out the season really, really well, a lot better than I think a lot of us was expecting, just because it was a new head coach, a guy that really hadn't had a whole lot of time coaching as a head coach. He'd been pretty much Jason Kreis's right-hand man the entire time. And so what we have going for us is a guy who knows the system, but, it wasn't a guy that was head coach and we wasn't sure what we was getting with him. But, it was easy for the fans to get behind this guy. And we as fans, we got behind him, we supported him. It was our coach. This is the guy that the team trusted, and especially Garth Lagerwey trusted, that he can deliver for us. And he proved it. We started this season on a crazy run. I mean, it was amazing to see how well we were doing. Only because, with new coaches, you kind of expect that there's going to be like a learning curve, or the team's not going to respond so well and not do as well as you were hoping that they do, especially with the talent. But I think the talent shined through. I think it proved more than anything that Jeff Kazar knows his in and outs of soccer. Only because he proved it. With especially to start out the season, we didn't lose a game until the 12th game of the season, and that includes wins over LA. And we also beat who many were deeming to be, shoo-ins to make the playoffs and make a lot of noise in the playoffs, with Toronto FC, who went out in the offseason and spent a lot of money bringing in some big-name talents, including, United States men's national team midfielder Michael Bradley. So, beating those guys was huge for us. And we actually we dismantled Toronto. And as at the time, that was a win you could hang your hat on and be like, look, that's the team that a lot of people are saying is going to win the MLS Cup, or is going to be winning the Supporters Shield, or doing different things like that. And this is a team that we beat it was at home, but we beat them by, we held them to a shutout, and I believe it was 3-0, 4-0. We even went into Houston and beat Houston in Houston, which is unheard of for this RSL team. But, like I said, that 12th game, about that time, the wheels kind of came off, and we hit a 4 to 5 match spell there where we kind of ran into some trouble. And the only reason that we ran into trouble was a lot of our guys were, not a lot of them, but a lot of our key guys were off on, national team duty. You had Kyle Beckerman and Nick Romano, who was off representing the United States of America, and then we had Sal Barrio, who was off representing Costa Rica. And, it was one of those, we just got to keep the ship afloat. Once they're back, then we can go back to dominating this league. And what sucked for us then during that spell is Sal Barrio broke his foot during training before he even got to the World Cup. So we lost him for most of the season. He only played in like 13 games for us this year. He just barely came back. But during that time, what was nice to see is we traded last year we traded away a draft pick that will be used in 2015, a second rounder to Toronto for Joao Plata. And at the time, RSL, they had a knack during the Jason Kreis era of making, a trade or two that you just shook your head, scratched your head, and was like, what is this team up to? Why are they doing a trade like this? This guy, I mean, Plata kind of had that bust mentality to him, only because I think the team, Toronto, expected more out of him and he wasn't delivering. I think it's because they knew what he did back home in Colombia. And you could tell that Plata was kind of getting homesick and stuff like that. And so when RSL made that trade, RSL already had, like a Javier Morales on the team who could take him under his wing and teach him and be that mentor to him, be that friend to him, be that link to him, to his country back home. And Plata's now, especially after that Saborio injury, he pretty much took the team's offensive mindset, put it on his back, and he's not going to win the MLS MVP, which is sad. He put together a crazy, crazy, awesome year. I love the year that he put together, and I'm wishing that they would give him, at least some consideration for the award, but it won't happen. But once the national team members got back, RSL hit their stride again and just put together a very impressive, something like 12 games over the final 15 where they pulled off at least a point. 9 of those games, 8 or 9, they secured 3 points in it. And that's just impressive and shows what this team is capable of. Yeah, we lost, 3 guys to national team duty, but it showed how key that those guys were to us, because without them we're middle of the pack. And now that they're back, they're healthy. Saborio come back, and tonight actually Saborio got a goal against Chivas. By the way, finally knocked that monkey off our back. Also, only because Chivas, they only had 8 wins on the year this year. I mean, they still have one more match to play, but it's 8 wins, and we gave them 2 of them. Both of them 1-0 games. So it's kind of heartbreaking to us. That's how it is. So RSL now kind of looks at themselves as the underdogs going into the playoffs. I would say, only because they've pretty much come out and said they don't care where they're seated, because they're just going to go play soccer and they're just going to go play their style. So they're not really going to go root for this team or root for that team. They just know that they're in the playoffs and this is a time when they need to make some noise. And it's true, that's what RSL has been notorious for in the past, especially in 2009. They snuck into the playoffs, put together some impressive results, and now they're the ones that have the trophy from the 2009 year. Even last year, team just got hot. Team kind of had that mentality of us against the world. They ended up in the MLS Cup, put it into penalties. So this is a team that now looking ahead, you got the feeling that they're looking towards the world against us mentality again, and it starts from the top. Jeff Cassar has come out and pretty much said, we don't care where we're seated, we're gonna just go play. Kyle Beckerman said it tonight in the post-game show that we're gonna watch the game, but we're watching to learn. We're not watching to root for this team or that team. And that brings up kind of a few questions that I got from Devin. The first one being, has RSL gotten past giving up late leads? I honestly don't know, only because this team, it's kind of the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde type team. To say that, but that's just what RSL is. And it's kind of hard to also know if they're past that point, only because you know, their last loss was to Vancouver, and it was, they got out to an early lead and then they got shut down, but that was a Vancouver team that we I think we're experimenting more than anything else. Um, we had like a Mansally playing. It was the first time that, if I remember right, first time that Salcedo had been starting in place of Schuler, and so I think it was more or less a mess around, not a mess around type situation, but it was a let's see what Mansally can do back there. Let's see what we have in Salcedo playing back there. We didn't play Grabavoy there in the midfield. We put Gill out there, kind of. I think that was more or less a let's go out and play around with this game. And then the last loss before that, as my slow computer pulls it up, it was a 3-2 loss, and that was one of those where we gave up a late goal, but we were also playing a man down. So you hope that as the team matures, especially they've shown a lot of maturity lately, especially tonight watching the Chivas game. RSL has a knack of, when it's a lesser opponent like Chivas, they'll play down to their competition. They won't go in and they won't dominate it. Tonight, they didn't play down to the Chivas mindset. They went out and they played their style. They played their game. Chivas went to what we expect out of Chivas, is they pretty much go with what's the bunkering method, where they're pretty much going to put no guys forward to attack. They're just going to sit back and take on RSL attacks all night long. Then they hope that RSL makes that one screw up to where they can just quick counterattack, get a quick goal. RSL kind of showed tonight that they can break through that. They had 2 goals. One of them was off of a PK that Saborio got, but that goal by Beckerman, it proved that when teams bunker like that, somebody's still going to find an ability to get free. Plata saw Beckerman was free, gave him that quick little pass, and Beckerman, sealed the deal. So, have they gotten past giving up late leads? It's hard to say, only because the last time they gave up one was, months ago, so we don't know what it is. And then we start looking towards postseason, and I've gotten a few questions about the postseason. One of them, how realistic is a Dallas win on Saturday? Easy answer is 50-50, but that's not the right answer. You know what, Dallas is in a spot where they need to be careful. Dallas knows that if they go in, they have to win to get that 3rd seed. There's no doubt about it. They have to win. A tie, they're the 4th seed. A loss, they're the 4th seed. What's going against them, though, is they're playing a Portland team, and it's a dangerous Portland team, and it's a Portland team that they need 3 points to win. So Portland's going to be throwing everything at Dallas trying to get that win. They're going to pretty much be how do I want to word this right? Dallas knows they're in, but Dallas knows they need 3 points to avoid that play-in game. Portland knows they're not in, but 3 points puts them in there. So this is, a match where you're going to see two teams that are pretty much going to go beat down each other. I know in the past, their past 5 matches, which would expand back to last year of May, that it's pretty much an even. Their last matchup, ended in a tie. Dallas won the game before that. Portland won the 2 before that, and then another tie. So this is a team that kind of puts together. I mean, this is a rivalry that kind of one-sided isn't the right way of putting it, unless you consider the one side a tie. These are two teams that know each other and they're going to battle it out. I honestly don't think it's realistic for Dallas to get a win, only because of how desperate Portland's going to be. I'll put it this way: if Dallas can go in and they have to get an early goal, I mean within the first 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, you have to get that goal. If not, Portland's going to start committing numbers to trying to get goals. And if you still don't have that lead come about the 70th minute, Portland's going to start making subs with the win on the line, and they're going to be thinking about that. Whereas Dallas, they can easily just get a tie and sneak out of there, but still have that play-in game. But realistically, I think Portland pulls off the win, only because their will to make the playoffs means more to them than Dallas avoiding that play-in game. Some other playoff questions we got was, what's the key to postseason success for RSL? The key for RSL is going to be chemistry. You have Saborio, who's coming back off of his injury. He's been getting a few games, a few starts here and there. Went the full 90 tonight, which was nice to see. So you see that chemistry building there. I tweeted it out earlier that one of the guys that I love seeing the consistency out of is Luke Mulholland. From the first day that he came in, he instantly gelled with the team, and he's had that chemistry with them. So I think that the first key going forward for this team is going to be chemistry, only due to the fact that chemistry is key to this team. Plata and Saborio play real well together. They know, along with Javier, where they're going to be. Another forward that actually has a lot of chemistry, especially with Plata and Javier, is Garcia. And I'm hoping, and the reason those three have that chemistry together is because they spend a lot of time together, and you can and talk to each other and hang out together and know each other's little knacks and flaws that each one have, and so they try to build off of each other's strengths. You hope that they're also doing that with Sebastian Hame. If you watch those three on the field together, you can tell that they kind of know where each other's going to be, and so it's nice to see that. And I honestly believe it is the Spanish-speaking background where they all came from sort of the same culture and upbringing, that they all relate, they all train together, and so they know that. So, especially with a new guy like Sebastian Hame, you hope that his chemistry, him coming in, doesn't mess up that chemistry. The next thing, next key that I see, which is huge, is their defensive backline. That backline needs to be solid. There was some rumors out tonight that there's a chance that Schuler might have played. He didn't play in the game, but it was told that he is cleared to play. It's just up to the coaching staff to decide when they're comfortable allowing him back, and so that's a huge addition to this team. So you hope that with that backline getting stronger, it keeps guys out of the attacking third, keeps guys away from Raimondo, so Raimondo doesn't have to, go typical Raimondo and shut down everything that's thrown at him. What is nice about Raimondo, though, is he has that communication with his back line, whereas a lot of goalkeepers will yell at their back line and also yell towards their midfield about how their midfield is screwing up. But that chemistry between, going back to the first point, that chemistry between Raimondo and Beckerman is Raimondo knows that all he has to do is keep those guys there in the back line in order, and Beckerman will do the same thing in the midfield and the forwards. And so if you ever watch a Real game, you'll see that Beckerman will start yelling at the top half of the field on a screw up, or you'll see Raimondo start yelling at the back line, and it's because they both know where guys need to be positioned, where guys need to be, what guys need to be doing. Getting Schuler back is going to be key. And what also is great for them is Salcedo is playing outstanding right now. I think he's made the case, especially with Schuler being out. This is a kid that needs to be in the starting lineup. The only thing that sucks is we don't know where to put him in there. He can play all over that back line, but with Schuler coming back, it makes it tough to find a spot for him. And that's only due to the fact that you have Wingert back there, you have Borchers, and you have Beltran, and who are all proven to be big-time players back there. I think, though, with the upcoming expansion draft, that you're going to see a combination of players leave and open the door for Salcedo to come in. And one of the last questions we got was, what have we learned in the regular season? What we've learned is when this team is healthy and this team is all there, not everybody's off on national team, that this team is deadly. This team, towards the end of the year, if it wasn't for what I believe that 4-match drop there in the middle of the season during the World Cup, which, if MLS respected the FIFA calendar like they should, I mean, kind of to go off on a little tangent, FIFA will put out a calendar and they'll say, we've designated, this weekend as an MLS, as a FIFA weekend. And what that means is a lot of the national teams are going to be playing each other. So that, United States more than likely is going to be playing a game than, more than likely Mexico is, England, Italy, whoever. And then it's up to the clubs to find opponents during that time. MLS kind of just doesn't care about it. A lot of other leagues will kind of, it's a calendar, they know about it a year in advance, or a crazy amount of time like that. So they'll actually shut down their league that weekend, only because they know a lot of guys are going to be going off playing in those games. MLS kind of, you get the feeling that they just don't care, because they'll schedule games during that same weekend. They just don't care. And so while the World Cup was going on, they shut it down for a week or two, but World Cup's still going on, and they just didn't care. World Cup games were being played in the mornings or afternoons, and MLS was trying to schedule their own games at the same time. They kind of act like they don't care about FIFA's calendar dates, and it's nothing crazy. Like, here's once a month or something like that. It's like once every 3 to 4 months. So I don't know. Yeah. But what we've learned is when this team is all here and all healthy, that they're dangerous. I think they can contend with the likes of Seattle and can contend with the likes of LA. LA might be the trickier of the two to be dealing with only because it's Donovan's last year, and you know how emotions get and how people get when a legend goes out like that. Um, Real quick on Landon, though, you know, I respect everything he did for the United States national team, but as an RSL fan who's watched a lot of Landon over the years, I don't know if I agree with the whole sending out a legend type thing, and that's only because my opinion for the past few years is, especially in 2006 and 2010, is this team, our United States national team, was kind of built around Landon. And, you know, they'd bring in the players that best suited Landon. And I have no problem with that approach. I just think that that approach was wrong. I think they were better suited to be building around Dempsey. And even now, I think we're past the time of building around Dempsey. I think we're even past the time of building around Bradley. I think Bradley we should have been building around for 2014. 2010 we should have probably been building around Dempsey, but it was more or less we were building around Dempsey this last time. And I think, you know, honestly going forward, I think that it's more we need to be building around not one certain player from now on, but a collective group. I think we need to get a lot of these guys together a lot more, especially Luis Gil. And I think Luis is the key to the future as long as they're willing to watch him and give him the time. So, yeah, I keep just going off on tangents trying to answer the question. But what we've learned is when they're healthy and everything like that, they can go, they're deadly. They can keep up with the best of teams. For most of the year, they were in Supporter Shield contention, which is great to see out of them. So, yeah, I think what we also learned is that our depth is a lot deeper than we thought it was. I mean, yeah, during that time when we the World Cup and we lost all those national team members, we kind of hit a spell there for a while. But I think we have some depth in the midfield now compared to in the past, only because Luis Gil is the under 23s captain. He is their captain. He is their Kyle Beckerman to our RSL. I mean, he puts on the captain's armband. He's the one that goes and fights with the ref over calls. He's the one that gets to talk to the ref and has to be that diplomat for our country on the soccer field. And Luke Mulholland has pretty much pushed his way into it, into the starting lineup. And in doing so, Luis is now sitting on the bench. And knowing what we have from Luis, you know that our midfield is talented. Because we know what we have from Luis. We know what we have from Sebastian Vasquez. And now after this year, we know what we have in Luke Mulholland. Our defense, we found out, was a lot deeper than we expected, only because Carlos Salcedo came on and he can play all over that line. And I think with the Sebastian Hame deal, that now our striker position is a lot more set up. I think what we also learned this year, and it's something that we all didn't want to learn, but we were forced to learn it, is that the expansion draft is coming. And we learned who we need for this year and going forward into next year. we realized the worth of a Kyle Beckerman and a Nick Raimondo. We also realized the worth of a Saborio, and also realized, not a very popular opinion, but we realized that in crunch time and when needed, we do have options behind Javier Morales where it may be Luis Gil, or maybe if they want to put him back into the midfield, Joao Plata. We learned who's expendable. I've kind of played around with the idea a little bit, but I really like the idea of having Saborio and Jaime up front, Plata playing the top of the diamond, Luke and Luis on the sides, and Beckerman. There's something about that just, I love the idea of it, only because I know how Luke and Gil play that midfield and how Beckerman will keep them mellowed and keep them under control, but allow them to play that physical style that they both like to play. Also allows Luis to be in the attack and be that playmaker that he is. And it gives you two dominant strikers up top, and it still gives you Plata on the field to be a playmaker and to actually be the center focus of this entire team going forward, because I think Plata is the key to your future along with Luis Gil. I think what it is, and I've looked up the stats and I don't remember them off the top of my head, Luis Gil, I mean, especially when I went and watched the Club Tijuana game, when he had Mulholland with him on the field, it was great to see him. You took him off in his night and day. He was trying to make plays, but he didn't have that one guy to go to be that other playmaker with him. Then they subbed on Plata, and all of a sudden he had that playmaker again, and he went back to playing awesome. And so I think Plata, Luis, and Luke is your key going forward. And expect more of that to come on Torn by Sports in the next couple of weeks. I'm planning on breaking down each position, who I feel is going to be protected, who I feel is not going to be protected. So expect that soon. The last question we got is probably the question that everybody's been wondering since the dawn of time. Beckerman's dreads or Nat Borcher's beard? So when I first read the question, first thing that came to mind was Borcher's beard. And the only reason I say that is old Family Guy skit where they're talking about Chuck Norris's beard, and they actually kind of had him on the show, and one of the guys insulted his beard or something, and a fist came out of the beard, and Borcher's is our Chuck Norris. But I'm going to go Beckerman's dreads. And that's only because when I was 14, I started playing soccer. Just, kind of a little rec league. They didn't really teach you anything like that. But when I finally hit high school at, 15, I mean, I was still 14 when I started playing. I played as a freshman on the high school team. But at the time, I actually had a mullet. And it was rad. It was awesome. Get yourself a mullet. Anyways. And I loved having that hair only because it was unique. Other players on the team would come up and talk about how awesome it was, and I kept it all 4 years of high school. Mullet. It was awesome. Got a nickname. That's what guys on the field would call me. And it was cool. It made me feel like I was a part of the team, and so seeing his dreads was awesome like that. Actually going back, there's been a few guys, you just look at their hairstyles and you're like, man, that's awesome. Only because in the world of soccer, so easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle, and so if you have that one unique thing that kind of stands out, like Sebastian Velasquez's rat tail he used to have. My all-time favorite, though, growing up, well, not growing up, but towards the start of RSL, I was still in high school playing, and it was actually Clint Mathis and that mohawk he had, and I thought that was so awesome. My parents wouldn't let me shave my hair into a mohawk. I wish they would have, but they kept telling me, no, no, don't do that. And so what I do is that faux mohawk where I'd make that, and so I'd have this like faux mohawk with a mullet in the back, and it was awesome. Tie-dye shirts during practice. I mean, I'd just go to DI and find any tie-dye shirt I could, or I'd make them, and just the hair's kind of what sets you apart. I mean, Nat's beard sets you apart, but Beckerman's, we'll just say this, Beckerman's dreads are a body of work. Nat grew that in the off season. Beckerman's been growing that since probably he was 2. Probably like a 3-year-old running around with dreadlocks, just acting like he owns the place. Probably does. Anyways, that's all we have for today. Keep sending questions, guys. It's fun to answer them. Go check out Torn by Sports. A lot more RSL content's going up. Jazz season starting. A lot of Jazz stuff on there. A lot of BYU, a lot of Utah. Get on there, support the guys. Support the guys that support me, that allow me to answer the questions for you guys. And I'll talk to you guys hopefully next week when we'll break down the MLS playoffs and we'll figure out who's hosting the MLS Cup and who's raising it at the end of the year. So, talk to you guys later. See ya.